Yes. Ramblings from the beautiful island of Sri Lanka, aka Serendib, aka Ceylon, aka Teardrop of India, aka Pearl of the Orient, aka the list goes on. I started my journey, like most, in the bustling, fume-heavy capital city of Colombo. With all the colours, cultures and everything that make up this resplendent paradise, which Sir Arthur C. Clarke claimed is the best place in the world from which to view the universe. Originally, I thought I would probably go explore something like the endangered leopard subspecies or the wild and captive elephant populations. But whilst doing my research, what kept catching my eye was all the talk about butterflies. And this was surprising. It's not something that I'd seen much before, but I love butterflies. How can you not be happy seeing butterflies? It means summer's on the way, it means beers in the park, signifies happy days. You may keep hearing me talk about save what you love. Well, these magnificent winged insects are that for me, and we barely see them around anymore. So this was a perfect opportunity to learn more. To be honest, I didn't know too much about butterflies to begin with, so I managed to arrange meetings with 3 different groups to try and introduce me to everything. Worldwide, 33% of insects are threatened with extinction. Jesus. Intensive agriculture is the main reason for this, principally through the use of heavy pesticides. And this is bad news, because researchers say that insects are essential for proper functioning of ecosystems, as food for other creatures, pollinators, recyclers of nutrients, and therefore helping to provide us with a lot of the things that we as humans need to survive. Now, what about butterflies specifically? For this, I went to see Dr. George Michael van der Poorten at his home, literally in the middle of nowhere, 3 buses and 5 hours away from Colombo. Dr. George has written the book on butterflies in Sri Lanka, a lepidopterist and ornithologist of incredibly high regard, so who better for me to go and learn from? Immediately, what I noticed when we were sat on his porch chatting was how alive his garden was. Butterflies fluttering past, parakeets munched on coconut remains, fighting with crimson-backed woodpeckers, as a Sri Lankan jungle fowl walked across in the distance, watched by an owl up in the tree. And the doctor explained that him and his wife planted this whole garden by hand themselves over the past 40 years. A philosophical belief that he should help those around him thrive and survive, much like you would treat a fellow human. So, how many butterflies do we have in Sri Lanka? There are 251 butterfly species in Sri Lanka. And what's amazing is that 31 of these are endemic, meaning that they're not found anywhere else. And I swear I saw this amount of them just fluttering around his grounds. And as I said, you hardly see them anymore. So it's spectacular what it looks like when you actually just make a little effort, or in Dr. George's case, 40 years worth of effort. But unfortunately, at least 94 are threatened with extinction. And what's causing it? Really the same reasons for general decline in insects, but here it's specifically a reduction in forest cover through changing land use and agricultural expansion, primarily for coffee and tea plantations, which are actually a big tourist draw. And this really causes most of the damage in Sri Lanka. For example, the intermediate zone has no original forest left, and in the whole country, about 3% of original wet forest is left intact. And this is as well as the chemicals for agriculture and the change in weather patterns from climate change, all basically causing negative effects on life cycle and general population. And if that doesn't show you that there's a problem, there used to be the most amazing internal butterfly migration around the famous Adams Peak, where you'd see millions of butterflies flying for days on end together around the mountain. But now, you'll be lucky if you see that for even half a day. A loss of all this forest cover through changing land use is seriously messing with the specific requirements that butterflies have. And Dr. George was just pointing out these while we were going around his garden. This one's for that butterfly, and that one does that for that and that. I don't think I've seen a species this specific before, incredibly dependent on the entire functioning of their ecosystem. I guess to understand this, we must understand their life cycle. But actually, that is probably going to take ages. So I'm going to presume that most of you have read The Hungry Caterpillar by Eric Carle. But if you haven't, then there'll be a diagram and just pause the video and have a look at that and then you'll figure it out. So, butterflies, in order to survive, require certain species of plants, even down to a certain type of ant on a tree, a form of symbiosis in order to lay eggs. And then this plant may need to be near a specific feeding plant for a caterpillar. And then to gather all the pheromones that they may need to mate, they need to dip their brush in a specific pollen. Specific. I think you get the idea. But it really illustrates the complications for managing species when each of the 251 has such distinct needs and wants. So what will it mean if we continue to just let this happen, I wonder? I mean, they're food for birds, so birds will need something new to eat. They pollinate plants, so we'll probably need to figure out another way to do that. And basically, as well as not having these beautiful things around us anymore to make us smile, we'll really suffer for all the other ecological services that they provide. Cool fact though, sometimes to reach the nectar, the butterflies have to have tongues longer than their own body length. Happy with all this new knowledge, I set off again. And my next stop was to meet with the Butterfly Conservation Society of Sri Lanka. These guys collect data, create awareness, assist the government, build relationships between scientists and amateurs, but have basically created a society built by people that came together through their love of butterflies, for people to learn to love butterflies, and then to help them save what they love, by sort of taking out children and social groups from the towns into experiencing nature. As just a young grassroots organisation, I was given so much optimism for the future of butterflies here, due to the difference that these guys were making and the sort of incredibly novel ideas they were having to make people care. And to be honest, it made me really want to get involved. Like, what could I do myself? So, butterflies either need or don't need specific microhabitat requirements, like those specific requirements I was talking about before. And those that do require us to pledge to conserve that remaining habitat. And that's sort of what the Conservation Society are doing. But for those that don't, it means that a willingness to help can create butterfly havens in our own backyards, rural or urban. So Dilmah, who claim to be the finest Ceylon tea in the world, tucked away inside their conservation centre in the outskirts of busy Colombo, which researches, promotes and experiments with little gardening projects for the public to grow organic food, have also created the best and first urban butterfly garden in the country.
Since 2011 till now, there are 58 butterfly species have been recorded in this our garden.
These guys have proved that it's possible to be nice to butterflies anywhere, reclaiming an old bit of swampland into a refuge for the 53 species and hundreds of individual butterflies that have passed through, as well as the other birds, insects and reptiles of the region. It was such a beautiful experience being surrounded by butterflies everywhere, and it was hard to believe that this is what it's supposed to be like. I was running around like a little kid.
Oh, there it is. Oh, there are loads. Come back, little one. There's another one. Oh yeah, stay.
And it's not even that hard to create. These guys experimented, with hundreds of species of both host and food plants for the picky endangered species. But now there's dozens of species around the garden playing host to all sorts. And the issues in Sri Lanka are present all over the world, really. So if you fancy doing your bit, and making your garden or house into a safe space for butterflies, then there are loads of info online to make yours just like Dilmah have done. So thank you to everyone who took the time to speak to me, and guys, save what you love and we might just get somewhere. Ramblings out. And to keep up to date with everything, make sure you give all of these a follow.